Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Do you want to describe what the viewer, so somebody who's listening to this, it's a podcast.
Yes.
So they can't really, how would you describe the image of what they would see?
Right. So the photo is titled Field of Dreams, which is makes it seem more grandiose than the image actually is. It's just a picture of a baseball diamond in a park. That's it. So it's from behind home plate. It's a pretty wide angle shot, blue sky, green field, and that's basically all it is. It's actually a stock photo that I took. So
Okay.
yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. So let me also describe now what I see. Okay. I'm just spinning the laptop around. Okay, so Field of Dreams. It references the movie, or I guess there must be a book written, Field of Dreams. I have no idea, but the movie for sure. Yeah?
Yeah, of course.
The bottom, so if we split the photo in half, the top half is the sky. So far away you can see trees. They're quite dark green because of the exposure. The sky has some clouds. It's mostly, cyan with white and all that kind of stuff. So it's sky. And then the bottom is like a well-tended, well-kept baseball field. The actual mound, which is earth, so it's got the brown color, and it's outlined with a white chalk. And do you know if it's chalk or if it's... Do you know baseball really well?
Well, I mean, is that really a baseball fact to know if the chalk is chalk?
No, I don't know. But did you play baseball?
Yeah, I did.
As a kid? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably chalk. I assume it's chalk.
Okay. Did you ever snort it?
No.
So how do you know? Okay. So you're discovering that I'm an idiot. Okay, well, you have great teeth.
Thank you.
Gee,
American.
shit.
Baseball, teeth.
It's beautiful teeth. Okay. Yeah. So the shot is of it. Basically, it's very symmetrically shot. So I can see what you mean as a stock image, but in a way like it's all just well composed, well balanced. The grass is really rich and green and really manicured. But because of who I am and what I'm like, I immediately ask, okay, why? Why start the conversation with Field of Dreams?
Right. So it's because of how I got into photography and how I learned about photography. So I didn't grow up with anybody who was really a photo buff or anything. I didn't grow up with film photography. It was, for me, a camera was maybe when I was younger, a little disposable one you might take on vacation or something, get it developed at the 1 hour photo. But I never carried a camera around, nor did anybody in my family. So it wasn't until I was at the end of high school, like beginning of college, that I even cared about photography at all. And my avenue in was the digital route, right? So film hadn't interested me at all. But as soon as there was digital photography, I was kind of a computer nerd. So now that I knew I could take a photo and put it on my computer and run it through Photoshop and do whatever I want with it, send it to people, whatever, then all of a sudden photography became interesting.
Okay.
So I was obsessed with like those early Sony digital cameras that had like 3 megapixel sensors, the little compact digital ones.
Sure.
So I started out with a couple of those and just upgraded a couple of times to get like the next better one. They were growing by leaps and bounds at that point. So I did that for a little while until I got my first SLR. So that was like maybe 2003, something like that. Mm-hmm. Just like an entry level Canon, digital Rebel as they call it in the States, with a couple of like crappy Sigma lenses from eBay, right, just to get me started. And I had no idea what I was doing. So I had no formal training. I never took any courses, anything like that. I didn't really have any close friends or family members who knew a lot about it. So I was really on my own, just trial and error, trying to figure things out. And so I don't remember how I got into stock photography, but I found iStock Photo, which was a relatively small stock photo company at the time. They're now owned by Getty Images, so like they've been bought by the conglomerate. So I don't know how I found, but it was interesting because I was like, I can make money doing this. And it was early enough that everybody didn't have an SLR and everybody wasn't shooting photos all the time. Yes, the market was not saturated as it is now. So it was possible to do it back in the day. So I got involved in this website, went through their like kind of crash course training program. And then I just basically like learned to take photos by this vetting procedure that they had, because it's stock photography, so it has to be perfect, right? Because if it's not, they reject it, and send you sometimes like a list of reasons, things you have to fix. Sometimes if you fix them, you can resubmit it. Other times it's just like, this photo sucks and we're not taking it, so try again, right? And they get pretty angry if your rejection rate is very high.
Sure.
So you can't just, flood them with images, because someone actually has to look at it and, take the time to give you feedback and like take it into the collection or reject it. So basically by going through that vetting process, I learned how to make good, clean, well-composed images, because they had to pass through this filter of, somebody saying, yeah, we'll accept this into the collection. So I did that for years. And this specific image, for whatever reason, was one of my most downloaded ones. I think I made several $1,000s in royalties on this image. And I used all that money, I put it back into gear and just bought better cameras and better lenses and everything.
James, I had no idea. This is what I love this. I love this. Okay, so I'm going to interrupt for a second.
Sure, please. It's a conversation.
Excited. It's a conversation. Is that how podcasts work? My goal is to make that Pocari Sweat come out of your nose from laughing. Okay, so for those who don't know, Pocari Sweat is it's like Gatorade or whatever, and in Asia it's very big, and it's just weird for us to kind of look to buy a drink as a thirst quencher.
Yes,
that's called Pocari Sweat.
Yeah, it's a terrible name.
Yeah, well, for us, I'm a photo nerd, a photography nerd. That's the main sort of entry point of the podcast, and I have known a lot of professional photographers. I have, photojournalists and all this thing, and in terms of how they've come into photography, myself, my own story of selling and doing, using or monetizing photography, whatever you want to call it. You're the first person I know. For me, it's an awakening. I'm just like, that's amazing. Okay. So this is how you learn. Like, it's like School of Hard Knocks in terms of the commercialization of it. Okay, keep going. Yeah,
very much so. So I got a lot of my basic education basically like responding to feedback that I would get from rejected photos, where they would say, it's not good for these reasons, try to improve these things about it. And then I would go back and try to figure out if I could do that. Wow. And that's how I learned the basics of exposure and like ISO, because you can't shoot high ISO images for stock, because if it's noisy, they won't take it, right? It's useless. So anything above like ISO 400 at that time they would just reject it out of hand.
Sure.
So, I had to learn to use a tripod and get faster lenses and all these things that would, improve low light photography and work on composition and like really all the basics. It ticked all the boxes. So it made me learn.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I chose this image because it really just illustrates how I got better at photography. Yeah. So the gadgetry got me into it, but like trying to make money as a stock photographer, that's really what taught me the craft, at least in some aspect of the craft. Right. Stock imagery is a very specific type of imagery, so it's not like you learn everything about photography from that, because it's very sanitized and kind of commercial. Yeah. But it helped me a lot. So that's basically how I got my start. And I was able to also finance buying, because photography is an expensive hobby, right? And I didn't really have a full-time job or anything. Then I was like, college student, high school student. So finding thousands of dollars to, buy full frame gear and L lenses and things.
Did you ever bump into one of your photographs in your life in terms of how it was used, and you're like, oh, wait a second?
I think it was kind of hard to do that, although if it depended on what kind of license the image was purchased under. So sometimes if it was a big order, like someone purchased maybe the license to reprint the image like 100,000 times or something, then you might be able to see the contract and maybe from there glean the information from maybe where it would appear. So I could go find it maybe. Right. But I don't think I've bumped into any of my photos just in the wild anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's perhaps I've seen them and just not really noticed it, picked up on it, because it's all very generic kind of stuff where like my stock photo could be indistinguishable from somebody else's of the same kind of thing. Okay. So, but it would be neat.
I could see how this photo, Field of Dreams, the basket, so it's what's interesting to me is that the mound doesn't look pristine. Like, it doesn't look like freshly brushed or whatever it is, because the earth looks like it's been stepped on, but not too much. So it's just funny. So I could see how this image would tick the boxes for like annual report or a website for whatever it is, So yeah, it's but it's fascinating. I had no idea. This is great. You want to stay on this one, or you want to move on to the next one?
Well, just a PSA for anyone who wants to emulate my success. It's not possible anymore.
Yeah.
So, like I said, iStock, it still exists, but it's been bought by Getty,
Yeah.
and it's been pretty well gutted. The forum used to be like a fun place to be. It was a cool little hangout for like people who are trying to make a living. I suppose there are probably a few people in the world who still do make a living doing stock photography, but at this point, you have to have a studio. You have to be shooting really specific things for really specific clients.
Right.
You can't just kind of walk around and take pictures and upload them anymore. There's just millions of photos in these collections, and it's just too hard. So I was lucky that I was able to do that at the time. So I just was very, very fortunate. Yeah,
because one of the as you were talking to me, the one thing that occurred to me was that over time I could imagine plotting a graph of the income over time, and that the more people go into it, the more people you're competing against, which means the harder it is for your photos to get chosen. And then over time, so when did you start?
I think probably around 2003 is when I got in. So yeah, pretty early on as far as digital SLRs and everything go.
Okay.
So yeah, in those first several years, maybe first 4 or 5 years, it was pretty fruitful.
Wow.
Yeah, but then the collection really did grow exponentially.
So
like they do.
At the time you were in Las Vegas?
What?
No, where did that come from? No, sorry. I get these flashbacks.
All right.
No, okay, so no, but at the time
I've never been to Las Vegas.
Okay, but at the time you were in what city?
Pennsylvania.
You were in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I was in York.
York, Pennsylvania.
York, Pennsylvania.
Okay. How big of a city is this?
It isn't. It was technically the first capital of the United States of America. That's fun trivia. So
Okay.
that's a real thing.
York, first capital?
First capital.
Got it.
Yeah, but that was only so that the redcoats wouldn't burn down Philadelphia. We were just kind of moving it off to the side.
Okay.
Because it's fine if York burns down.
But you started in York?
Yeah.
Okay, and then where did your journey go? Like, how did you were photographing there for a few
I think
years?
this would have been my undergraduate. I was a college undergraduate. So I was at Pitt, University of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So yeah, just transiting back and forth over summers and everything. So I was in the Pennsylvania area.
What were you studying?
Classics. So I have both of my degrees are in Greek and Latin. I'm a Latin teacher. I know.
Are you a Latin teacher now?
Yeah.
In Hong Kong.
I taught Latin this morning to children.
The man teaches Latin in Hong Kong. You're gonna have to bust out some Latin. You want to do it now or later?
I don't have to.
Okay. Say I don't have to in Latin. Can you say that?
Necesse non est mihi. It is not necessary for me.
Great. I can't stop smiling. Okay, great. This is awesome. Shall we go to the next photo?
Sure. I forget what it is, so you're going to have to remind me.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.